We are Ole Miss Rebels. As Mississippi's flagship university, we dig deeper, see farther, work harder. We pioneered human organ transplants. We helped prove Einstein's theory of gravitational waves. We are conducting life-changing research that solves the problems of today. We are Ole Miss, transforming lives and the world.
Hey, welcome to the POMcast with Stephen Willis. We're going to start in a few minutes, but I want to tell you to hit up our social sites, retweet, share, comment, like, do all of that stuff. It can only help us out and it'll make the show even better. But we're getting ready to give you a lot of good Ole Miss information, and I just thought I would tell you that because the POMcast is starting. Well, it's starting right now. Wait, no, that's a little early. It is starting right about now. Hey, good morning. Welcome on this Tuesday morning. Welcome to the POMcast. I am your host, Stephen Willis, and as always, I'm excited to be here coming to you live from the palatial Central Florida studios. We're doing a whole bunch of new stuff. You can notice several improvements that are going on within the network. I'm very excited about that, and we'll tell you that as it comes up. Today we're going to tell you a little bit about the post-game show that we have planned. So that is very cool as well. Today on the show we're going to talk about the AP poll being released and Ole Miss being left out. Second of all, does Ole Miss have a solution at kicker? And third, we will talk about that post-game show in the second segment of the show. But first, before we get started, I do want to tell you about Travel and Cruise World. The number for them is 1-800-330-7461. Again, that is 1-800-330-7461. Scott and the guys can take care of you, whatever your needs might be in visiting Central Florida. The goal for this was, in this age of COVID, I mean, we're probably 18 months into this right now. Everybody needs a vacation. Everybody needs a break from everything's going on. These guys will ensure that you're not surprised, your vacation isn't ruined, and you can come enjoy Florida and do whatever you need. The parks, the beaches, the wildlife, whatever you want to do, that's available for you. So that's Travel and Cruise World. 1-800-330-7461. Travelandcruiseworld.com. Travelandcruiseworld.com. Just a heads up, you don't pay the fee for the travel agent. The parks pay the fee for the travel agent. So give them a call, find out what's going on, find out what's going to cost, because they can get you the same rate you can get online without any of the surprises attached. By the way, the chat is open today, as you can see, and part of that is going to be, whatever you need to do. Even if you can't see it, I can see it. It's directly in front of me, up full time. So if you have a question, you can shoot it this way as well. We're working on calls. It's getting kind of close. I guess this weekend I should probably do the final test of calls for the network for a post-game show that we're going to talk about in segment 2. It's going to be pretty great. But before we get started, I do want to tell you, you can follow us on Twitter at @TheStephenWillis or at Ole Positively. You can catch us on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast. Give us a follow. They'll be notified when we're streaming. You can catch us on YouTube at Positively Ole Miss. Subscribe, hit the bell. You'll know not only that we're streaming, you'll know what we're streaming about. It's probably the best notification system that's out there. And you can follow us on Twitch at Positively Ole Miss. If podcasts are more your thing, you can catch us on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and Pandora. We're also on several smaller podcatchers, but it would take the whole show to list them all. My name is Stephen Willis, and I am very, very happy to be here and am looking forward to talking to you over the next 30 minutes or so. Now, Ole Miss got left out of the top 25 of the media poll. And what does that mean? Besides, the media doesn't know what they're talking about. They make a career of not knowing what they're talking about and controlling a narrative that's constantly wrong and expectations are defied, and this is no different. I mean, I think every year for the last 15 or 20 years, somebody has gone from unranked to the top 10. So there's misses quite frequently. And the reason is they don't have time to watch other teams, what's going on. Even the national guys that are supposed to talk about everybody, they don't have time to do it all. There's too much content, too much information. So you have to glean. You have to first impression it. You look over at Mississippi State, for instance, and first impression is like, well, Will Rogers is a sophomore. There's a competition. There's a little bit of a struggle going on. He's probably not there, so we're going to put him at 7th. Put Mississippi State at 7th, based off of that first glean. Now, that's not necessarily right. You don't know what's going on. People look at Ole Miss, and they see that wonderful offense that is top 10 worthy, honestly, and they see a defense that they think is going to be about 120th in the country. That's the first impression. That's what they're gleaning off of it. Right there. And they're making decisions based on that information. That little bit of information. They're making decisions based off of it. And you end up with what you have here, which is Ole Miss coming in at the second others receiving votes. If Ole Miss beats Louisville, Ole Miss is going to be in the top 25. Historically, 2 or 3 teams lose in the first week and drop out. If they win the game, they're going to be in there because, that's the way it works. But it's all about starting position. And you take that gleaned information, put that on the back of reputation. And people talk about blue bloods. I hate to break it to you. Blue bloods don't exist. Blue bloods don't exist. If blue bloods did exist after Tom Osborne left, Nebraska would have kept going. If blue bloods did exist after Philip Fulmer left, Tennessee would have kept going. If blue bloods exist after Lloyd Carr left, Michigan would have kept rolling. There's power programs in each time period, and it all comes down to who's calling the shots. And eventually, that team becomes a blue blood. Look at Clemson. Clemson's won 2 national championships. People talk about them like they're a blue blood. But 10 years ago, Clemsoning was a thing. People always made fun of Clemson's because of messing up when it mattered. And it wasn't a real narrative. It wasn't actually a thing. It was just people being snarky and funny on the internet trying to make it a thing. And next thing you know, they hired Dabo. They continue to go forward. And they win a couple national championships. Anybody can do that. Vanderbilt can do that if you give them the time and the patience. If Clark Lee is the guy, you could win a national championship within 10 and 15 years in Vanderbilt. That's how long it would take to build up from where they are to where they want to go. About 10 or 15 years. You look at Kansas State back in the day. They were terrible. They were absolutely terrible. Iowa State, absolutely terrible. Depending on their era and who's coaching, whenever Matt Campbell came to Iowa State and Bill Snyder came to Kansas State, incrementally built it up. It's all about having the right guy in control. There's probably, at any given moment, 5 to 10 elite coaches in college football. It's about getting those and keeping those, because when they go away, it can all fall apart on you. Look at James Franklin at Vanderbilt. 2 9-win seasons in a row. They were getting ready to turn around. James Franklin goes to Penn State. Vanderbilt backslides a little bit. It's all about that. It's all about narratives and things that people perceive, but it's not really true. And we got a question, let's see, a comment from Guy Cody Caldwell in there. Good morning, Stephen. Ole Miss goes to T-Town undefeated and either wins the SEC or lose their mind, in my opinion. That game against Alabama. Now, we need to take care of business against Louisville. Louisville's a good team. They can They can provide a decent amount of resistance to Ole Miss. B. Brown, Gunnar Brewer, there's a lot of familiarity with Ole Miss on that staff. But if we get past those, and I imagine it could get scary, anything. Malik Cunningham, as you can see up here, we have him up highlighted on our side thing that pops up every now and then. He's a good quarterback. Now, turnovers last year got them in trouble. And as I've told you over and over and over again, turnovers and explosive plays are how this defense is built. It's not designed to bend but don't break. It's designed to, you got a 2nd and 4 and you made a really good play, but we got a sack and now it's 3rd and 12. And on 3rd and 12, you throw an interception. And all of a sudden, field positions change with that offense. It's like a basketball type mentality where a run is a thing. And this defense is built so the offense can go on a run. Next thing you look up and 21 points is hit the board and the game's over because they went on a quick run. That's what we do defensively. I do think you're right, Guy. If Ole Miss goes into that game, I hate to say this. I hate to put it out there, but it's going to be like when Mississippi State went to Alabama undefeated with Dak Prescott in 2014. That is going to be the build-up to that game. Everybody needs to get ready for it, but that will be the build-up for that game. If Ole Miss is 3-0 going into that game, and Alabama comes into that game at whatever they want to come at 3-0, whatever. It doesn't matter because they're Alabama. But if Ole Miss comes into the game 3-0, it is going to be a zoo. People need to prepare for that. It's probably going to be the CBS game, and it is going to be a zoo. But with our offense and the way that game went down last year, it's going to be on our defense. Our defense last year against Alabama allowed Alabama to gain every yard they could gain -7. Think about that for a second. Over the course of the game, if they were playing air and every play Alabama scored, they would have gained 7 more yards. So the defense and the explosiveness, Bryce Young still getting started, Bill O'Brien coaching. You know, I like Brian Robinson, running back. They have talented players. But just doesn't. I need to see Alabama for the first time in 5 or 6 years. I want to see that the talent coming in can replace the talent that left. They've already taken a step back defensively because they have to. Whenever they do the offensively and everything becomes more play volume, the defense is going to take a step back. It's all about play volume. If you're on the field 75 to 80 plays a game, you're going to do worse than on the field at 60. Period. That's just the way it is. And I'm looking forward to that game. I hope we can get through Louisville, and I want to see the build-up for that game because there's a chance. Now, after Alabama, by the way, this is a concern point for me. After the Alabama game, you have Arkansas at home and Tennessee. Both of those are slip-ups, but it could be a situation you don't want to carry over that Alabama game, the fatigue to the next week, one way or the other. Either Ole Miss unbelievably high because of a win or Ole Miss down because of a loss. It doesn't need to affect the second week because that can get you in a little bit of trouble. And whenever it can ruin a season. I hate to say a win at Alabama could ruin a season, but it absolutely could. You have to be able to just throw that away. So that is interesting. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that game, Guy, consistently. Also, before we move on, let's see. Actually, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we will talk about Caden Costa and the special teams at Ole Miss and how does Ole Miss win the West with a loss in T-Town? How does an Ole Miss win? And how does Ole Miss win an SEC West title with a loss in T-Town? Well, they need Alabama to lose twice. So you need LSU or A&M, or really both of them, to step up. Now, the problem with that is Then the game becomes the Texas A&M game or the LSU game. Whoever wins that is going to be immediately going to the catbird seat. Now, a three-way tie could be interesting depending on how it goes, but realistically, now if Alabama's a 9-3 team, Ole Miss absolutely has a chance to lose that game and still move up to the top, because they still have to go through Auburn, Texas A&M, all that gauntlet. But with a loss in T-Town, that means Alabama's got their stuff together at the beginning of October. And they might be better than we thought they were. We will know whenever they play Miami how well things are adapting. If you see a bunch of sloppy play, a bunch of penalties, Bryce Young locking onto a first read and then running. He's a slight guy. You want him to run a little bit because they're going to catch him eventually. And if those things are happening, you can see the build-up, be kind of a slow build from Alabama from week 1. Now, the greatest improvements week 1 to week 2, and everything could be fixed by week 4. But I am interested to see, because if they are rolling the first week of October, because they have Texas A&M the next week, and they can springboard that to win both of those games in October, there is no winning the West with the loss to Alabama and Tuscaloosa, because it appears that they will be legit, because it is still a bunch of 4 and 5 stars. It's just a bunch of inexperienced 5 stars. That's all. All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we will talk a little bit about Caden Costa and the hope that we have for the special teams position, especially the kicker position at Ole Miss going into this fall season. I'm looking forward to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium game against Louisville. I want to see a new kicker run out and perform, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But until then, stick around. All right, welcome back to the POMcast, segment 2 of the show today. Thank you for tuning in. Reminder, the chat is open. The way you hit it, just comment in any live stream thread on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. It will be aggregated right here, and I can see it. Even if you can't see it, I can see it. So that is what is going on. Now, we used a little bit of time today. I'm really excited about Caden Costa, and he had a nice introductory scrimmage to basically the media, because he's practiced indoors. You know, everybody else goes outside. He does his work inside because they need the field space. And, you know, you might have a player that is needed, you know, for a drill, an individual drill. They might come out period 8 for 15 minutes and they'll go back inside. That's just the way it works with the way that everything on the practice is scheduled. But the word is no field goals missed, no extra points missed, length on the kick. Now, as bad as we were the last few years, this makes you even more excited. This makes you even more on board to, you know, this offense and this team in general. Because this is what this means. We go for it, and that's all fun, and we do whatever we do. But on 3rd and 15 from the 20-yard line, all of a sudden that's an automatic. You're going to get points. It's not going to be a situation where everybody is dreading what's going on. The way it was the last couple of years, God bless the kid, but 32 yards and in, you could fairly well count on him. Anything over that was a crapshoot at best. So we need to get back to the days of Gary Wunderlich, where his consistency, kicking the ball, just once we cleared the 35-yard line, okay, we're good. We got it. We're exactly where we want to be. And we're going to get 3 on this regardless. And what that means is these one-score games that we lost last year, take out every other aspect of the game and leave it exactly the same as 2020. Those one-score games, the Auburn game, the LSU game, the Arkansas game, I won't count it as a one-score game because that last interception did it, but that Arkansas game, those games with a field goal kicker, all of a sudden they look different. They feel different. There's less pressure to perform. If you can count on the fact that a 47-yard field goal is going to be consistently made, you're going to call the game a little bit differently. Now, 7 is more than 3, and you're always going for 7. But if you get a penalty and end up in a 3rd and 13, you're not exactly in the same position. There's not exactly that level of pressure because nobody wants to come away with 0 points. You want at least 3 guaranteed, and then you want to work towards 7. And last year, as you can see, we worked towards 7 quite a bit, and we went for it quite a bit, and it was stopped, and that's still going to happen. That's nothing about that is going to change. But in the back of the mind, the pressure that the players feel to convert or not convert on 3rd down, knowing that 4th down is there to do points to get points is exactly what you want. The pressure is going to get a little bit less. They already just play a 4th down play. And it's kind of interesting to see. I mean, it really is. But I am very excited about the kicking game at Ole Miss and where it could be potentially moving forward. And I think for 3 years I've been excited about that. But, I have an interesting perspective on that. Way back in the day, 100 million years ago in high school, I was all South Mississippi as a kicker. And so I do pay attention to that part of the game because, you can see what it matters. You know what a player feels like. You know what they're going through. And, 4 minutes to go in the game, you're already preparing for what's going to happen next. So that's something I'm interested in and really want to see. But, finally a kicking game. The kid has a big leg. He really has a big leg, and I'm interested in seeing that. Mac Brown punting also. We don't talk about Mac Brown. He was 2nd or 3rd team All-SEC preseason, and nobody talks about him. Last year we went for it more than we punted, so that's probably the reason. But Mac Brown consistently is a good punter. Now, I am interested in the return game, and I will say this. I'm interested in the return game because kickoff returns, that's probably going to be Dennis Jackson. But in the punt return game, that's where the surprise could happen. Last year in the bowl game, Dontario Drummond and Jonathan Mingo alternated there. But with players, the super athletes like Tysheem Johnson and J.J. Henry, I'm interested to see what they do. You also have Jerry and Ely. I don't know if I would put him back there, but he has a chance to be a punt returner as well. So I'm looking forward to that aspect of the special team that probably more than any other after field goal is seemingly taken care of. So, yeah, just really excited about that. So, all right. We're going to move on to the post-game show. We're going to do a post-game show this year. It's going to be about 30 minutes after the game. We're going to go online. It's going to be completely live like this with the chat. We're going to take phone calls. And just to provide an outlet for you to say what's up and, give me your thoughts on the game. Have your say on the team. Because the whole reason we're into this, like I told people all the time, I'm not in this for influence. I'm not in this for ego. I'm not in this for money. I'm in this for fans like me to have a truthful and enjoyable experience following Ole Miss football. And that can absolutely happen. Now, here's the catch-22. The post-game show will be completely on Patreon. It'll be 100%. It just won't be blasted out to everybody. It'll be on the Patreon. So you can get a Patreon account for as little as $3 a month. I mean, it's not a huge thing. But the reason we are doing that, let me explain why we're doing this, because you guys have heard me talk about free content all the time, but we want this to grow considerably, and everything that we get kind of goes back into the show. We're kind of like MWR when you do that. So the POMcast and SEC After Dark and Beast of the East and Best of the West, they're all going to be remaining free. Absolutely free, just like the ER right now. You can catch what's going on. But we want to increase our library some, and we want to find and bring in and be able to pay talent. And more perspectives, I think, is a win for the general Ole Miss football fan. And I'm pretty excited about that. But we have my show that's going to be completely free, Beast of the East, the Best of the West, and SEC After Dark, with all three of us. All the chat's going to be open. We're going to take calls on SEC After Dark. That's going to be completely free. So we needed to find an avenue to kind of PBS this a little bit. Contributions from our loyal viewers, that type deal. So you're not Patreoning for necessarily new content. You're chipping in for the free content and content that already exists and the new content. So there's a good bit there, because I do want to keep that free. I do want to keep that free because it's important. But we're going to put that behind the paywall. We're going to probably put the preview show behind the paywall. So we're going to do that. We're going to try to hook up with somebody every week, and our interviews that we do, as you can see on our YouTube page, those will be delayed. The Patreons will get first access to that, and then they will appear on the thing. So sometimes that could matter, sometimes it couldn't. But like I said, we're not in this to get rich. We're in this to make it better. And that's why we're doing this, because, we're already thinking of new bells and whistles we can attach, and to do that is going to take a little bit of investment. So that's the reason we're doing what we're doing, and we're pretty excited about that. And as you can see, completely free. Nothing competes with this. So thank you very much. I do want to thank Britt for being a Patreon, and we will see him for the post-game show, absolutely. And I do want to tell everybody that I hope they have a great day. Tune in tonight for Best of the West with Kevin Bohannon and Jake Thomas, and tune in tomorrow for another POMcast. Until then, though, I'm Stephen Willis, and of course, hotty toddy.